Hello, and welcome to a new devlog. Um, this one is me detailing the progress that I've done in a new game jam that I'm participating in, hosted by the university, of which I'm no longer a student, but they graciously still allow alumni to participate. Um, the prompt is "The nightmare is real," and this is going to be day one of progress. So if we switch over to my first idea, um, it's it's sort of a stealth game, a staple of mine, um, where you're in a spider's nest and the spider is sort of rotating around like a cylindrical hive or nest is probably a better word, and you as the player have to go around this spider, dodging its line of sight and stuff, and dropping down levels. The gimmick or the USB of this is that the camera isn't first or third person; it's centered on the spider, and the spider is really the subject of the game. Um, Such that uh, when you move left or right, you're rotating around this spider, basically. So I started with finding this, or drawing this diagram, something pretty simple. We'll see the spider's line of sight, the spider is rotating in the red lines, and as you go down the levels, down the holes that are in blue, the path in purple, um, the spider will go down on the same level as you. Um, the the first design problem I was faced with was if the background or if the camera rotates around the spider, that means you'd have to have 360 vision of the inside of this nest, but it would be blocked by the walls. So instead, I decided to have a semi-cylindrical wall which moves with the camera, and just have it blank, so that any decals can be placed on the empty space where the wall would be, and when the player moves to be able to see that part of the wall, that part of the decal, the wall would just move to be there, so you could see it. I also had ideas for how the gameplay would go. So um, the whole idea of stealth games is about layering and the different things you have to keep in mind. Obviously, there's going to be walls to block line of sight, um, and the sort of hazards I was thinking about is spider webs that slow you down, and potentially even I had an idea of eggs that once you step on them, they make it like a crunch, and then the spider will stop rotating and just jerk to that position. Um, yeah, that sort of stuff. Up next, we'll go on to from a design sort of diagram to starting implementation. This is a week game jam, so 5 days, not much time. I went straight into Blender and started getting to work on a simple stage to work on. So the wall, the semicircular wall, um, didn't need to be too complicated. It just needs to surround the the floor, which I used a torus for this, and then I cut out a little shape. That's the shape that you'll be falling down. Um, a thing that happened because I used a torus though is that this platform is not entirely flat, which has its own design repercussions later. I could replace it, or I could like go through and move each of the vertices independently, or perhaps if I take an entire ring around and then only scale one layer to be the predominant layer, so say that one, then just make it bigger, do that all the way around. That could be a potential solution, but it's not been a problem that I've not been able to work around as of yet, so I'll keep it for now. So that's the start of assets. I needed some PNGs of spider webs. I'm sort of going for like not a very serious aesthetic. Like it's meant to embody nightmares, but I also want to have a clear visual communication. So I wanted something with like thick lines, and not too stringy, not too hard to work with in Photoshop. And I got these off of Google, and I took out the transparent bits. I made it white instead of black through adjusting color. Yeah. And now we get on to what I made today in Unity. As you can see, we've got our nest area. I duplicated the floor and took it down 15 each time, and we have 7 layers. The little blue capsule is the player. And these like white ones are like cocoons, they're just decal. And big spider in the center. The first problem that I faced was how to move the camera, or how to move a player, I should say. So I needed to create a circular motion for the player around the center of the map, which is tough. I would suggest, or like I Googled it. I tried to find some solutions, Stack Overflow and whatnot. But I couldn't. There were solutions, but they involve like plugins and complicated code to implement, when all that was really necessary was to look at the problem from a different perspective. So instead of, Googling the equation of a circle and mapping that to a movement script where I'd have to track the percentage of the circle that had been rotated through, and then apply that to the camera and the wall rotation at the same time. Instead, I tackled it from a different perspective, and instead of moving the character left and right, I decided to move the entire map, or rotate the entire map, which we'll see in the demonstration in a bit. So yeah, moving left to right rotates the map. Moving forward and backwards is just normal. So we have full movement. That's basically the only thing I really coded today. I'll show the script. Pretty simple. We have some variable move speeds. That I do adjust these in the editor. So these are not the same values, 5 and 5. So moving A and D rotates the stage, which we get a reference for up here. Moving W and S moves forward and backwards depending on the move speed, time.delta time, just to make sure we aren't messing up anything with frame rates. Yeah. I made sure to organize everything, so we have imported asset packs, materials, models, prefabs, which we can see some of them here. Scenes, that's just where we are. One script, and we have some sprites for the spider webs. And nothing for textures yet, because we don't really have anything that's in need of that. And for the asset packs, I have some rocks, a rock pack, a fantasy pack. It had some, like, to be honest, I only really needed it for some textures, like for the ground here. And this for the big spider, and this pack for like these small spiders and the eggs over here. So yeah, I like to keep an organized shop. We have a big wall. We have, well, for directional light isn't doing anything at the moment. I've turned it off because it's supposed to be a dark game. We have a player, and he has a rigid body and a box collider. The box collider is superfluous. I used it before I really, like, I was having trouble with a rigid body and gravity. So I was toying with using my own grounded checks and you stimulating my own gravity. But again, just a small perspective shift on the problem solved that gravity problem for me, along with a few settings. We have the camera control, which has the main camera, the wall cylinder, and what's this cube? Oh yeah, this cube is basically a back wall for the player. If we turn it on, I just used it for its collider and turned off the mesh renderer. So this is just so the player doesn't walk backwards off the map or out of view of the camera. And because the whole map is rotating around you instead of you moving around this location, there's no need to move this at any point. In the Rotatorino object, you'll see everything that needs to rotate when the game starts. This is simply put, like, the entire map and the spider. So we have the spider itself with its repelling web. A small thing I had was, like, I didn't want it to be a cylinder, like a clean cylinder, because that would look weird. So a lot of, like, again, fun problem solving. I used a stalagmite, and I just stretched it a whole lot. Which, you know, in an ideal situation, you don't want to use scale too much. But in these short week-long projects, it's not too bad. I'd want something bespoke made later on. You can see it in these ones. It's thick at the top and then thin in the middle. Then as it gets to the cocoon, it gets thicker again. So yeah, we have the spider, and then we have each floor segmented. We have a false wall here. Basically what this is for is, instead of, because I want to put, like, decor onto these walls without having to move this giant wall every single time. So each floor has its own false wall, which I can just turn off, and it's just there as a placeholder for me to be able to put stuff onto it and know where the wall would be when the game starts without having to move this big unit. But yeah, then we have the props, and that's self-explanatory. Yeah, let's get into a demonstration of the scripts that we have so far. So we'll pull that here. You'll get to see the map in the scene view while we're playing. Turn off maximize on play. Yeah. So you'll see on the left, you'll see that the player is not moving at all. If we get the player and click back on, the player is not moving at all when we're going left and right. It's the entire map rotating. But if we go backwards and forwards, you see that the position changes. We'll have like these things as cover. The little spider vibing out on the cocoon. I feel like its animation is messing up, but I'll fix that later. We have these egg nests, which are, supposedly going to crack when we walk over them and alert the spider where we are. These webs will slow us down. And if we walk into the center, then we'll just die. So here's the gravity problem I'm having with a rigid body. Because I'm rotating the map, instead of moving the player, the rigid body does not recognize that there is there's a gap beneath the character, and it's not causing gravity to start. The only solution I found to this is to move back and forth, like actually move the character, which in this controller is with W or A, and then it recognizes, hey, there's nothing here, and it will fall through. So yeah. Up next is to have a spider line of sight, then to get some transitions between the floors, have the spider move down smoothly, have the camera move down, and have everything reset for another level of stealthing. Yeah, this has been the demonstration of day 1 of progress. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.